welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Shailene, and if you're new here, hi, welcome. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you, I love you. If you are new here, I value creation over consumption on this channel. That means I like to create things, create clothes, create memories, you name it, creation over consumption. That being said, I really value sustainability on this channel, and I try to make any flip or any creation as sustainable as possible. And this video is no different. Today we'll be creating 3 different holiday gifts for your friends and family that they will actually use. Today we'll be creating bookmarks for the book lover in your life, or for yourself, or for any friends and family. These are great little stocking stuffers. Painted candles, because come on, they're adorable. I was able to thrift such cute candle holders and candles for this project, and then I was able to put my own little flair on things, so I'm excited to show you that. And 3 beeswax wraps, because hello, everybody needs beeswax wraps in their life. Like I said, we value sustainability on this channel. We want everybody and their friends and family to have sustainable kitchens, am I right? I'm happy you're here, and I'm excited to get started. Let's do this. This first gift does require a sewing machine, so I'll preface it with that. However, I have seen a similar video of bookmarks from Lone Fox, and I will link that tutorial below. He uses felt and does not require a sewing machine. So if you don't have a sewing machine, I'll link that tutorial below. But if you do have a sewing machine and are interested in this, definitely keep watching. For this project, you need a sewing machine, you need fabric, you need any type of fabric really. I got these fabric hoarders from the fabric store. You also need backing. I like using SF 101. You'll need a rotary blade or some scissors with a cutting mat, possibly some clips, thread, a water-soluble marker, and an iron and ironing board. I actually got this idea from another YouTuber on here called So Becca. I will link her tutorial below. I feel like she explains it really well. But essentially you want to create squares out of your fabric, and the ratio she uses is 4 inches of fabric. You use 3.5 inches of SF101 or whatever backing of your choice. So here I just found something in my closet that I could trace, and so my box is a little bit bigger than 4 inches, but I went ahead and traced this shape onto my fabric. You'll want to create 3 of these squares per bookmark. Originally I was using the rotary blade, but I actually ended up finding it a little bit easier to control with scissors, so do whatever works for you. But once I got all of my squares cut for all 3 fabrics of my choice, then I cut out the SF 101 backing. What So Becca recommended in her video was if you're using, a 4-inch square, then do 3.5 inches of backing. If you're doing a 5-inch square, do 4.5 inches of backing. Just use half an inch less. Now you also do technically need 3 squares per bookmark. However, the 3rd square you'll actually be cutting in half. So you'll actually have 2 squares and a triangle per bookmark. And so if you're making more than 1 bookmark, you'll actually only need 5 squares for 2 bookmarks, and so on. Once I had all of my fabric squares cut out and all the SF101 backing squares cut out, I rinsed off the fabric so I could get rid of the blue marker, and then I just ironed these to flatten any creases out and just make it a little bit easier to work with. After I ironed out the squares, it was time to connect the SF101 backing to the squares itself. One side of the SF101 actually has little glue dots on the backing if you've never used it before. So you'll want the glue, the little dots for the SF101 to be on the wrong side of the fabric, the back side of the fabric. So that way the glue sticks to the ugly side, so to speak. Now we have squares that are not as flimsy. They're very sturdy. This will just help create a lot sturdier of a bookmark. For the 3rd square, where we have a triangle of SF101 backing, you'll go ahead and fold that in half as well, put the square down, and then iron that on, create a crease in the fabric with the iron essentially to create that fold. Unfortunately, I don't think I actually recorded me putting the SF101 backing on, but you do just want to leave a little half-inch perimeter around the backing to the square, so that way the backing is more in the center of the fabric. Once you have 2 squares and the triangle with the SF101 backing on the back, you'll want to go ahead and create your little bookmark sandwich, so to speak. So the first piece of fabric, you'll want to lay that right side up. You'll then lay the triangle of fabric in the middle there, and then the top piece of fabric you'll be laying wrong side up. So that now this is my little bookmark sandwich, and what I'm going to do is stitch all the way around all 4 sides, but you have to leave a gap so that way you can flip this right side out. I would recommend leaving a gap on one of the sides that does not contain this triangle here. What we're going to do is start about right here, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch, all the way around, back stitch, done. Backstitching will hopefully create a stronger hold when flipping this back around. If you're an experienced sewer, this part will probably come super naturally to you. I am not that experienced of a sewer, and so the first bookmark, it always is like a trial and error, right? Once I got to my second and third, it became a lot easier. So if this is you, just know that it does get easier. Just repetition makes things a little bit easier, but you'll just want to go ahead and sew that around like I had mentioned before, leaving just enough gaps so that way you can flip this back inside out, so that way you have the pretty side facing this when all is said and done. As you can see here, I just stitched around the border, and now I am flipping this inside out, being really careful. You don't want to accidentally rip the seam. The other thing I would recommend, which I did not do here, but I did do for the following two bookmarks, is actually cut the corners, which So Becca does in her video. Cut the corners, making sure not to cut the seam, but cutting the corners just enough so that it makes the bookmarks a little less bulky once you fold it back over. And once that's done and you've successfully turned it back right side out, now you'll have a little pocket that you need to sew back up. This is where I think you can get a little creative if you want. For this bookmark, I did do a zigzag stitch all the way around. I just thought that would add a nice little touch to the bookmark, but you can do whatever stitch you want as long as you're stitching that thing closed. Just making sure that you're not actually sewing onto the fabric flap in the front, because obviously we want to be able to put our book pages into that sleeve. So just making sure that you're not sewing over that is all. And this is how they turned out. As you can see, they're all a little bit different sizes, but that's what makes them unique. I love homemade gifts. I think these are perfect for anyone, for any occasion. I actually made these last year for Christmas, and I'll insert a photo here, but if you wanted to embroider these beforehand and then combine it all together, that would also make a super cute gift. Like I said, this would be a perfect stocking stuffer, or this would just be a perfect gift for a book lover in your life. And I'm just really, really excited with how these came out. For this next project, you'll obviously need candles. I would definitely recommend going to your local thrift store. There, you can probably find some candles there. Usually I have pretty good success with that. I was able to find a few this time around. If not, candles from Walmart or Target can be pretty inexpensive. So just get candles that speak to you. I liked this red one and the green ones, and then of course just white. I was also able to thrift some really cool candle holders, and I think that's a great addition to gifting candles. That way, whoever you're gifting them to have a place to put them. You'll need paint for this project. You can use acrylic paint, and you can burn the candles as long as they are water-based and non-toxic. So just make sure your acrylic paint says non-toxic and that they're water-based, and you are good to go. And then of course you'll just need some basic tools like paint brushes. I have some water here and a paint tray. I celebrate Christmas, and so do my family members, so I prioritized colors that I knew were going to be a little bit more Christmas themed. I'm thinking these are going to be gifts that people put out for the holidays. So I got red, green, I have gold and silver, brown and white. And then from here, honestly, I looked up inspo pics. Pinterest has been such a great resource. There are so many examples on Pinterest of really pretty tapered candles that have been painted, homemade, handcrafted, very unique pieces. I'll put some inspo up here on the screen for what I was inspired by. And honestly, I thought it would be a lot harder to paint candles than it actually was. I did notice that the first coat really was semi-non-existent. It was very, very sheer, but it did allow me to get the base going. So that way, when I was able to go in with the second coat, it was pretty smooth sailing. So just keep that in mind. The first coat is definitely going to be rather thin, but the second coat is really where it's going to shine. I honestly found this project to be super therapeutic. I love painting, and when it was something small like this, I don't know, it kind of just caught me in like a very therapeutic mindset. I did find it was a little bit challenging to paint the taper candles, only because where you put your hands in order to rotate it can be a little challenging. So I found a candle holder that I already had on hand, so that way I could allow the rotation of the candle to be a little bit easier. I would definitely recommend that if you have something as well. That definitely helped. And otherwise, I just put on some background music and I just got into the flow of things, and I think they started turning out really cute. The smaller candles, I did one with like a little gingerbread man, I did one with mistletoe, and then I also did a larger candle with some snowmen on it, with it's like a snowy scene, I guess, with snowflakes and trees, and I thought that was really pretty. The fun thing about this is you can make them any way you want. If you want to focus on something for somebody because they love a specific pattern or they love a specific holiday reminder, you can tailor it to them, which is really, really special. I had a blast putting these together. I think that they turned out so cute and so thoughtful, and they look handcrafted, yes, but I think that's like the beauty of it, right? The first coat was very sheer, but as I put the second coat on, it really brought it to life. This art piece is by no means perfect, but I really do think that's the beauty of it. It looks handcrafted, it looks really special, and I think it makes it super unique. And here is the end result, you guys. I am literally so obsessed with these. I think they came out so cute. They're so special. All of them are so unique. I didn't want to burn any of these because I actually am planning on giving these as gifts. So just know you can burn them. Obviously, just keep an eye on the flame before you walk away. But I think they turned out so cute. I have some shorter votive candles, some paper candles, and this pillar candle. I think all of them came out so cute, and I would do this project again in a heartbeat. This last project, you'll need 100% cotton fabric. I ended up thrifting these from the thrift store. These t-shirts are all 100% cotton. They're a little bit different, but I think all three ended up working out in the end. So as long as it's 100% cotton, you're good. You need a rotary blade and a cutting mat or some scissors, pinking shears, beeswax, pine resin, and some sort of oil. I used jojoba oil, an iron and an ironing board, some parchment paper, an old paintbrush, a double boiler or a pot with a mason jar in it, and lots of patience. I did pre-wash it and pre-dry it so that way it was ready to go before I started cutting into this. If you're doing the same for any fabric, just make sure you do pre-wash it. It'll help get any of the dirt or residue out of the fibers. This will really help create a better wrap in the end. Because I thrifted t-shirts, obviously I needed to cut these down and make them into squares. If you're using fabric that are already pre-cut into squares, you can totally skip this step, but I did need to cut mine down into squares. You can cut these down to any size you want, but I've been seeing that a lot of people recommend 6-inch, 8-inch, 11-inch, or 16-inch squares. But again, you customize this to your liking. If you have a specific dish that you really want to use a beeswax wrap for, trace that and make sure that the wrap would fit over that. That's the beauty of creating your own. You can really make this any size you want. After cutting everything out, I was able to get 8 squares of the gingham pattern, 14 squares of the green fabric, and 10 squares of the white and gold fabric. Full disclosure, I did use a recipe online and it does work, but I haven't played around with it so much to the point where I would want to 100% recommend it to you guys. Here I have a half a cup of beeswax, 3 tablespoons of pine resin, and 1 tablespoon of the oil. There are so many recipes online, or if you have a trusted recipe, definitely use that. And if you also have a trusted recipe, please let me know in the comments below. Obviously, the beeswax helps create a waxy layer over the fabric. The pine resin creates that stickiness, so it actually sticks to whatever you're trying to wrap. And then the jojoba oil helps it not be as stiff or create cracks in the fabric. Mine still did crack a little bit. It works and it is sticky, but I'm not 100% sold on the recipe I used. So definitely let me know in the comments below if you have something better. But I was able to create 3 wraps with this recipe. Once you have all of the squares cut, you'll want to lay the squares that you're about to make on some parchment paper in preparation for this. Be mindful that this is a super messy project. I wish I had better parchment paper, so maybe just keep that in mind, but it did create a mess. There was wax everywhere that I was. But just be mindful that this is a messy project and you will probably get wax strips. Maybe put extra parchment paper down. You're going to create a double boiler effect. If you have a double boiler, great. If you don't, you'll use what I'm doing here on the screen. You're going to fill a saucepan up with a little bit of water, place the jar in there, then you're going to bring that to a boil. I was seeing a lot of reviews online where the pine resin people were using were getting stuck to the bottom of the jar. So to sprinkle it in small amounts, I first let the beeswax melt entirely before adding in anything else. But once the wax was melted, I did start sprinkling in the pine resin and I did go ahead and pour in the oil. And I just used a chopstick to like stir that around, but this chopstick now has wax all over it. It's now a craft chopstick, so just keep that in mind. Also, the jar that you'll be using is going to have to be dedicated to wax as well. You'll probably never get that clean, so just keep that in mind. Use a jar you don't care about. You're just gonna let that all melt together and just make sure that's mixed up as best as you possibly can. Once that is all melted down, every now and then I would take it off of heat just to make sure that it wasn't solidifying the pine resin on the bottom and it wasn't getting too hot. I would take it off the heat, give it a stir, put it back on heat, keep stirring. For this project, just keep an eye on things, keep stirring, add in increments, and I think you'll be okay. But definitely look up some recipes online so you feel a little bit more confident in this going forward. As you can see here, this is kind of what the mixture ended up looking like. And then from here, it's pretty simple. I took the old paintbrush and you're gonna wanna saturate this fabric. So start in the middle, work your way out, get the fabric as wet as you possibly can, make sure it's spread evenly all the way around. Once all of the wax mixture has been placed onto the fabric, you're going to take another piece of parchment paper, put it on top, and then iron it out on the cotton setting. This is really going to allow all the fibers of that fabric to get saturated in that mixture. What I didn't do here, but I did do later on that I really found helpful, was to lay one piece of parchment paper down, stack all 3 pieces of fabric together, and then lay another piece of parchment paper down, iron that all together, and that really allowed all 3 of the cloth wraps to get super saturated in the entirety of the mixture. I feel like when I first started putting it on, I feel like it was already separating. I think the top that I started putting on the first wrap was a lot more oily, but after doing this and ironing all 3 at the same time, I really feel like it allowed all 3 to get fully coated in the entire mixture, which I found really helpful. I don't know why my recipe did this, so this might be something worth looking into before you start this, but my recipe did leave slight yellow spots on any of the fabric that I had that was white. I don't know if it was the oil or if it was the pine resin, but I did end up having some yellow spots in it, so maybe keep that in mind. But once those wraps are entirely heated through and they're entirely saturated, what you're going to want to do is hang them to dry. I had these little clips that I ended up hanging onto my shower rod, but you can also hang these over a clothing line. They'll dry in about 10 minutes. They're pretty quick. But one of the last steps, which I forgot to film, but once these are entirely dry, you're going to want to go ahead and just rinse these with cold water just to get any remaining residue off. And then you're going to snip all 4 sides with those pinking shears. This is what they came out looking like once all was said and done. I think these turned out so cute. Again, I really feel like I need a little bit more practice in making these, but they work exactly as they're supposed to. They came out super sticky. I feel like they're really going to hold up, but I'm excited to keep playing around with this and finding a recipe that works for me. I'm really excited to give the gift of sustainability this holidays and give my friends and family some beeswax wrap that they can use for the next year or so. The nice thing about these wraps is that once they are no longer sticky and you can't get them to work anymore, they're 100% compostable, and so you can feel good giving the gift of sustainability this season by gifting your friends and family a replacement for plastic wrap with a little homemade touch on it. That was 3 different gift ideas that you can give your friends and family this holiday season. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite gift was. I'm a little biased. I like them all, right? I mean, I made them, of course. I like them all. But honestly, I think the candles are like literally the cutest thing ever, and I can't believe I made those. And if you've tried any of these out, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your renderings of it, and it would just make me so happy to hear that you guys are also making homemade gifts for the holidays this year. It warms my heart. And if you liked this video or you like videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. I'm a newer creator on here. I am putting out these videos with every part of my being. I am loving putting these videos out, and I would so appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. If you like seeing my face, if you want to stick around, hit that subscribe button. You have no idea how much it means to me. And otherwise, I hope you had a happy and safe holiday season this year. You stay creative, you stay inspired, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Please don't die while I'm doing this. My eyes are watering. Why are they watering this bad? I'm crying in the glare.